Randy Kelsey, there's been a lot of reaction to Target's announcement. The 9th Ward Council member is urging people to avoid Target and support small businesses instead.
Amazon's announcement that it's closing its facilities in Quebec has reignited a conversation online about boycotting the company. Some people are saying they plan to cancel their Prime or Amazon accounts. Others say they even plan to return their recent purchases.
You know what? If you don't want to support our community, then our community is not going to support you.
As we transition administrations, headlines like these are circulating in response to policies that impact our daily lives. And when we see this kind of news, our reactions can vary. As a financial therapist and founder of the financial wellness business, Mind Money Balance, I want to remind us to pause, take some deep breaths before we react out of panic or fear. When we are facing change, we need to focus on what is within our control, not what is outside of our control. Today, we're talking about money and boycotts. Specifically, I'll be covering 3 things: the impact of where we spend or don't spend our money, 2, how to participate in boycotts within our means, and finally, managing the emotions that come up around boycotts. Let's just set the stage into a quick definition. A boycott is a specific type of non-violent protest where consumers intentionally do not spend their money at a certain place, on a certain product, or with a certain business to send a message. Money is power at the end of the day, and as consumers, the choices that we make financially send a message. When we buy from a business, we are showing support not just for that business's products or services, but we are also saying, hey, I'm cool with your mission, your values, the way that you move through the world, and the messages that you send. When we boycott, we are placing financial pressure on companies to change. Boycotts have been around for a very long time, and they are not new just because of what's happening with this administration. The 1791 sugar boycott, one of the first ever recorded consumer-led boycotts, encouraged 300,000 people to stop buying sugar that was produced using slave labor made by enslaved people. Back in 1791, they distributed this information the old-fashioned way with pamphlets that talked about why buying sugar produced by enslaved people was not okay. And you know what happened? Sugar sales dropped by half. Sales pivoted to sugar that was being produced and manufactured elsewhere from India, and it was not produced by slave labor, and sales increased tenfold in 2 years. This form of nonviolent protest helped to demand the end of the transatlantic slave trade. As I shared at the top of this video, we've got some modern boycotts in our midst. In January 2025, Target announced plans to roll back their DEI initiatives, saying that, quote, they had to stay in step with the evolving external landscape. This created tremendous backlash against not only Target, but against other big box corporations who said, we're done with DEI. A Harris poll around that time revealed that 24% of US shoppers have stopped patronizing some of their previously favorite stores due to these types of stances and taking an active act of boycotting and protesting. Target's rollback of their DEI initiative led to calls to band together to stop shopping there. Even the daughters of Target's co-founders, Anne and Lucy Dayton, came out and publicly criticized the company's retreat from DEI efforts. They said that these types of initiatives were foundational to Target's mission and values from the very start. And while it's too soon to say what has happened financially since we're still in the first quarter and we don't have Target's Q1 earnings yet that we can look at, we do know that during the week of February 10th, foot traffic in Target decreased by 3.9%, whereas Costco, who has doubled down on their DEI efforts and really stood by them, had their foot traffic increase by 4.6% during that same time. And just across the river from me in Canada, President Trump's threats to impose tariffs on Canadian imports and horrific threats of taking over Canada and making it the 51st states have led to a surge in Canadian patriotism, leading to something called the Buy Canadian movement. A recent poll of over 1,500 Canadian adults found that the majority of Canadians, 81%, have significantly increased how many Canadian-made products they will buy or are planning on buying. So you can see in real time, the goal of the boycott is not just to say, oh, I want to harm the business because I want to harm the business. It's about taking collective action that helps to drive change. A boycott can raise awareness of unethical practices, hold businesses accountable for their behavior, their stances, their statements, and encourages ethical alternatives. So we're not just saying don't buy from this place or don't buy from that place. As you can see with the Canadian example, they're saying, yeah, you still have to buy your food and your services, but when possible, flip over that bag or flip over that box and see where it's being manufactured and made, and make sure that your dollars are going in alignment with the values that matter to you. All right, part 2 is participating in boycotts. On my side of TikTok, there is a lot of grief and shame and conflation with boycotts and being a good person. There are a lot of creators who are saying that if you shop at this less than ideal grocery store or less than ideal big box store, you are basically voting for fascism, which let's just take a beat, zoom out, and insert some nuance. Here at Mind Money Balance, you know that I am not about black or white, so I want to present some additional information about why it might be hard for you to participate in a boycott, and remembering that our ability to boycott is not created equally. Boycotting isn't just about personal choice, it's also shaped by factors like accessibility and financial privilege. Our ability to participate or not participate is often influenced by social determinants of health. These are the non-medical factors that impact our daily lives. On top of that, some minority-owned businesses who have had their products picked up by places like Walmart or Target, they say they need to show that their products are still selling. So they have asked that consumers continue to buy those products from those big box stores to send a message that you need to continue carrying these minority-owned business products. So it's complicated. Let's take the example of boycotting a big box grocery chain. You may not have the ability to participate in that, even if you want to, if there are limited local options. If that big box grocery store is one of the only options or only affordable options in your area, not buying from there isn't really feasible for you or sustainable. Another reason is a lack of reliable transportation. Getting to a different store might be really difficult if you don't have a vehicle or if that big box store is on a bus line or a subway line. And finally, another reason that it might be challenging for you to boycott that grocery store is if you don't have social support. If your friends, family, and community are kind of rolling their eyes at you, it might be really hard and feel isolating for you to take this type of financial stand. For example, I get to pat myself on the back for not having shopped at Walmart since 2009. And yes, I remember what I purchased and why, but the reality is I have so much privilege that I get to choose where my dollars go. When I had to shop at Walmart for that car battery, I remember very specifically, I had to go there because they were one of the only stores that was open late on a weekend and had the type of car battery that I needed. I couldn't wait 2, 3, 4 days to get it from somewhere else. So my options were limited, and that's where I had to buy. Now, where I live, I have so many options to buy groceries, and I can move my dollars elsewhere because I have other options of where to buy food. I also have the ability to have reliable transportation that helps me to get to an alternative grocery store. And I live in a community where my family, friends, and neighbors are similarly minded, and makes it really easy to avoid shopping Walmart because most of us already are. If you want to participate in a boycott, but you are experiencing some of these barriers, here are a few different ways for you to move your dollars elsewhere so that you can get some of the household goods, the groceries, things that you need at a discount and giving fewer of your dollars to those places. One is to check out local farmers markets and community-supported agriculture programs. At the time of this recording, most farmers markets accept SNAP benefits. SNAP benefits are often referred to as food stamps. And another way is to consider buying things that you buy frequently directly from that retailer, whether it's online or whether they have an outlet. If transportation is an issue for you, look into delivery services such as Hungry Harvest, Imperfect Foods, Misfit Markets. These types of food delivery services offer discounted groceries for different types of foods that may be rejected from traditional stores for very silly reasons, like a chocolate-covered pretzel getting rejected from a big box store because it had too much chocolate or not enough chocolate, right? A couple of other apps that I like to recommend that tend to be more in cities or in suburban areas are going to be things like Flash Food and Too Good To Go. These are apps that connect consumers with surplus food from places like grocery stores, bakeries, and prepared foods at a steep discount. And you can also see what is available in your area. Research Good Goods Marketplace for lists of ethical alternatives. If you want to participate in a boycott but you lack social support, take a moment to reflect on why. Why does saying no to putting your dollars in the hands of these particular corporations feel like an important statement for you to make? And does it feel like the best use of your time and energy and efforts? It's also important to seek out like-minded communities, whether it is finding local organizations or consumer groups. Having a buddy or a handful of buddies who have similar beliefs and can help to cheer you on and hold you accountable can feel really good. And also think about just generally getting more connected to your community. Outside of political organizations, I like to encourage people to look to buy nothing groups. And these buy nothing groups are limited by usually a zip code or a radius. And the idea, as it says in the name, is to buy nothing. So if you have extra boots, maybe that your kid grew out of, but they are still in perfect condition or in good enough condition, you would say, hey, I've got a pair of kids size 4 boots in blue. Let me know if anybody wants them or needs them. And then you can coordinate dropping those off or having those picked up. It's a great way to not only get specific products that you might need or to give products you might need to people in your community, it's also a great way to build rapport with your neighbors. No one can do it all, nor should we. The goal here isn't to be perfect with your financial choices. It's just to participate in ways that align with your values, your capacity, and sustainability. On top of that, boycotts are a part of a resistance strategy. When we boycott something that we disagree with in conjunction with other forms of protest, such as marches, calling our representatives, participating in strikes, when we do things that are a part of a more coordinated, organized effort, that's what's actually going to help really move the needle when it comes to social change. The third part today that I want to discuss is boycotts and our emotions. Boycotts do not create change overnight, and the effect typically builds over time. Some boycotts last days, some boycotts last years, and throughout the process, it makes perfect sense that you're going to experience a range of emotions. Usually early on, you're feeling fired up, you're feeling motivated, you're feeling ready, and it's easy to maybe shift the way that you spend your dollars. But over time, it might get more difficult. Maybe fewer people are actively talking about it or posting about it, or you're not hearing about it as much. And so it becomes easier to slip into your old spending habits. It's not to say, again, that that's bad. It's just that you really want to make sure that if participating in a boycott is important to you, that you have a sustainability plan to support you. At the start of this video, I mentioned that I want to make sure that we are not making decisions rooted in fear or in panic. Those are some of the emotions that might come up when you're participating in a boycott, but you also might experience other emotions that cloud our judgment, such as frustration, anger, and hopelessness. We do not want a boycott to fuel that frustration and anger and hopelessness. Rather, we want to channel those uncomfortable feelings into action. We know that chronic stress can lead to burnout, and burnout can lead to disengagement, which means we stop participating altogether. We give up on the boycott, we give up on the protests, we give up on calling our representatives, we give up on talking to our family and friends about things that matter, and we do not want that to happen. And if we're experiencing this frustration, this anger, this hopelessness, we might start judging other people, and judgment creates division. Judgment fuels defensiveness and reduces our capacity to understand. And this goes two ways. We might judge ourselves for not being quote unquote good at boycotting, or we might judge others who we thought were part of this boycott movement, but have not been able to sustain it. And we might start to think less of our friends, our family, our neighbors, or our loved ones. And that's not good. We need community support to continue these movements. So we want to be really cognizant of ways to stay emotionally healthy and regulated. So I'm going to go into a few tips now. One is to practice gratitude. This is giving thanks. And there are so many ways that we can do this. They don't have to be long or laborious or complicated. One thing that I do every day is I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for at the end of the day. And they could be as simple as I'm grateful that I am able to look out a window during my workday, or I'm grateful that I got to watch garbage TV before I went to bed tonight, right? Those little things can be really helpful. If we want to amp up this gratitude, you want to add in your senses or sensory words as you are practicing gratitude. So instead of just, I'm grateful I get to sit in front of a window at work, it would become, I'm grateful that I get to see the seasons change in front of me. And I'm grateful that I get to feel the warmth of the sun on my face when the sun hits the window, right? These are the things that we can really add to dial up the goodness that we get out of practicing gratitude. And as a therapist, I need you to know that gratitude is not about ignoring frustration. It's not about gaslighting yourself or toxic positivity. It's about building resilience and acknowledging the both and. Yes, things can be hard, and I still have something to be grateful for. This act of gratitude helps to prevent us from getting consumed from negativity. The second tip when it comes to managing your emotions is to find and savor the good things in life. This sounds similar to gratitude, but it can go beyond that, savoring the moments of joy, finding the things that made you smile, and also actively seeking them out. Support yourself with friends and family that uplift you, that support you, and that make you laugh. And while we're on laughter and support, make sure you're being nice to yourself too. As I mentioned earlier, judgment drains our energy. Be kind to yourself, be respectful to and of yourself, and practice patience. Doing something like seeking out joy, seeking out happiness is not counterintuitive to these bigger movements. In fact, when we don't have joy, when we don't have happiness, it strips us of our capacity to build that resilience. So find your joy, find your happiness, find the things that are positive in your life. And third, move your body. Physical movement helps to literally process that adrenaline and cortisol. Finding ways to move your body is imperative when we are experiencing a lot of stress. A general tip is to move big muscle groups like your arms and your legs, things like dancing, walking, baking, and gardening. Get your whole body really active, and that can feel really good. And honestly, Maurice Mitchell said it best about how we need to be thinking about this. So often the phrase is, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And his response and retort to that is, it's not even a marathon. It's a relay race, meaning we have to take on things when we have extra capacity. And when we need to exhale, we can know that we can pass the baton to somebody else in our community to carry this mission forward. And then once we've recalibrated and we feel good, we can get back in there and pick that baton back up. If you don't know who Maurice Mitchell is, he is the president of the Working Families Party. I will link a podcast episode that he did on Vibe Check that really helped to soothe my nervous system and might help you out too. So if you feel your financial stress around a particular boycott leading you towards burnout, pause, regroup, take care of yourself, do what you need to do. Whew. So that was a lot. I'm gonna shake it out because, talking about that stuff can be hard, but I hope that if you were listening to this or watching this, it gives you some really good ideas about being thoughtful, being empowered, and being intentional with where your dollars are going. If this video is helpful or you listen to it as a podcast, forward it to somebody else who might find some benefit in a nuanced take on boycotts and finding some actionable steps that we all can take. Another thing that you can do is drop a comment on how you are navigating a boycott right now in your life, or maybe how you've navigated one in the past. All of the statistics that I referenced and linked will be in the show notes or in the description box. And with that, I'll see you next time.